Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends. So good to be with you as always. I'm very, very excited to be here with you guys. I got a very interesting show for you today. We'll be talking about the French president visit to China. Uh, but like I always do, before I'll get into all this, I like to extend my sincere thanks to the channel's members and subscribers. And I also take this opportunity to give a shout out to the three new members. It's the first one is KL as a member. Thank you very much for becoming a member of the channel. Second person is Sue Bernard as a supporter. Thank you for supporting the channel. And the third member is Orion Mirza. Thank you for being here. Speaking of members, guys, I plan on, like I said last time, to do a live Q&A, but since there's not many, so I'm going to have to hold up on this till we reach about, let's say, 100 members. Then we'll go ahead and do a Q&A for you. So that's what I intend to do. By the way, hi, Jan Harkor. Good to see you as always. Please give me a thumbs up if you can hear me clearly. I want to make sure that the sound is working because I don't want to be talking and realize the sound is not there. So if anybody can give me a thumbs up in the chat, so make sure the sound is working perfectly. All right, I'm gonna keep going here till I see a sign from any of you. All right, so this today's topic, as I said, we're gonna be talking about a Macron trip to China. Does it matter? You know, that's the first question we need to ask. Second question we need to ask is, can and will China trust France or Europe for that matter? And the third question that I'm going to try to answer for you today is, how do we place this trip within the geopolitical and economic context? You know, those are oh, thank you, Jan Harcourt. So the sound is working perfect, so I don't have to worry about it. So yeah, it's just the idea of because this is not a simple trip, you know, first of all. And this is why I always like to put this kind of three themes or questions, whatever you want to call them, for us to put this within the global context. And this is what I intend to do. But before I'll delve deeper into all this, like I always do, you all know the routine by now. I'll do the tour around the world with you. Then I'll give you the health tip of the day. Then we'll dive into our topic. So, well, here's the first one that might come as shock to you. As a matter of fact, to those who watched yesterday the live stream on the big channel, I did mention this, that I was aware of it since 2007, 2008. And here is what it is. This image here, this one is the former French president, François Hollande. Well, François Hollande, who was a former French president, just stated or confirmed that the 2014 coup d'etat in Ukraine was part, get this, guys, a part of a long-term plan to have Ukraine fight a proxy war with Russia. You know, as a matter of fact, you know, I was aware of it. We couldn't talk about it back then. The idea was that we were preparing for this war since the Obama administration. And now François Hollande confirmed that one. So that's put a nail on the coffin once for all, that this Ukraine conflict, it was manufactured and planned. So the second thing I want to share with you has to do with this image. This is very crucial. This is a reality of what diplomacy is all about. Saudis and Iranian foreign ministers met in China recently. Yeah, this is the result of what diplomacy is all about. And you got to give credit where credit is due to China. And by the way, I did prepare a video in which I detailed the long history of the animosity between Saudi Arabia and Iran. That goes pardon me, that goes over 1400 years, and how China was able and succeeded in bringing them together. The third one that I want to just keep you aware of, it has to do with gold is taking a center stage at the time when global inflation problems now is leaving investors wondering where to put money. This is why BRICS is going to move forward with creating its own currency backed by gold. Okay. And the last thing I will share with you is this is an image of the CIA director, William Burns, who visited Saudi Arabia last week. You can just see why the concern and the big issue about it. And we talked about this on a Rumble. I'm only going to say a few things here briefly. It has to do with the petrodollar. That is the bottom line to all this one here. So let's talk about health section here briefly, just to give you the tip of the day. And the health of segment for today is ginger. Why is ginger important? Well, ginger sort of has been studied as an alternative, get this guys, an alternative remedy for several forms of cancer. Yes, you heard me correct. Yeah, of course, big pharma won't want you to know about it. So ginger is very, very crucial. The anti-cancer properties are attributed to what they call the gingerol. Gingerol, yeah, that's one of the chemicals inside the ginger, which is found in a large amount in a raw ginger. So that's why ginger. You take it, just sort of shave it a little bit, mix it with your food, or you can do it with your tea. I do it with tea sometimes, and just gobble it up. So that's what I do. So anyway, let's dive into our topic about the French visit to China. Well, there's a lot to cover on this. Yeah, I mean, you can cover it from different angles, but we're going to focus, like I said, on the first or the three themes that I shared with you earlier at the beginning. So the reason why French President Emmanuel Macron went to China, based on what he said, based on what the Elysee, the presidential palace statement is, that visit to China because France wants China to play an important role in resolving so-called the situation in Ukraine. Well, wait a minute. It's like double standard. To me, that's a scream loud about hypocrisy. How can you go to China and at the same time are you doing behind closed doors to foment more tensions in Ukraine? You know, come on. How can you go to China, talk about peace and all that, and yet you are supporting NATO's accession of Finland to add as a member of the alliance? You know, that just doesn't make any sense. And this is why I am saying, can China trust France or trust Europe for that matter? The answer is no. You know, but China's going to play it very, very carefully, strategically, and diplomatically. They gave him the proper welcome, of course. But of course, if you noticed this image here, and I'm going to show you here, check out this image. What do you see? You know, he's walking by himself on a red carpet. Because to me, I look at this as a diplomatic insult. Yes, China provided him the red carpet. But where is the Chinese president there? Chinese are shrewd and smart, and rightly so. It's because you can't trust what the Europeans are saying. You can't trust what the West are saying. How about this image here? Check this out, guys. How about this one? This speaks screaming loud about, we're gonna teach you, meaning Chinese here, we're gonna teach you a lesson about the meaning of words. Why do you guys think this picture is for? Can anybody leave me an answer on a chat room? What is the significance of this picture? It speaks loud. You know, China didn't need to say anything. China didn't need to push back. China didn't need to whatever. It just, the setting in itself speaks louder. Like the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is one. And the reason being because you all remember the statements by Joseph Borrell and even Ursula Vanderlyn, the president of the European Council, who is a liar, by the way, saying that Europe is the garden and the rest is like, yeah, Chinese didn't forget that. And I am sure some other country will do the same, like what China did. But China was very smart in how to approach this one. And rightly so, because that's the way I see it. And the reason being because you can't trust them. That's the whole reason for that. Now, when you look at this image here, just look at the picture. The one at the top right here, that's President Putin when he met with Emmanuel Macron. Look how far they are. This is an image of President Xi and President Putin. You know, that again, guys, the image speaks for itself. The picture speaks for itself, and rightly so. And to me, the idea of how the French think they just can go to China and dictate the terms ain't gonna work that way. That era is gone. You know, China is not what it used to be 50 years ago. You know, now the question we need to ask and wonder about, did Macron said what he needed to say to appease the Americans? That's one question. Let me say thank you to Anna Kiblis. Thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. So that's one of the questions needs to ask. And second is, in your opinion, and of course I'm going to engage you with all this, guys, what do you think the real purpose of President Macron's trip to China? Yeah, just leave me an answer on the chat or on the chat box here, and we'll take a look. So, because there has to be some purpose. Well, if you are not doing it for Europe, who are you doing it for? For France? And how can you travel to China when your country is burning? You also the images. As a matter of fact, Western media is not releasing the images. I have family lives in France, and I can see, they are not releasing the images of the storming of the BlackRock headquarters. They are not releasing the images of the takeover in either Strasbourg of what you call it, foreign art. It's not a gallery. It's like a theater of sort, but it's very, very, very big. They took over. What they are not releasing is the images of the savagery of the law enforcement. I understand the argument that, if you are to protest, which you have the right to, you have to respect property. Now that I win wave away from, and law enforcement, we need to use force. It's because, you call a spade a spade. You have the right to demonstrate, but you have to respect property. That is not your property to destroy or burn. Oh, I want to say thank you to KL. Once again, thank you so much for your super sticker. I appreciate it. So that is the whole idea. But the savagery by which the French law enforcement or riot police, whatever you want to call it, because let's just be honest about it. Let's be honest about this one here. How do you think, and this is a question for you, how do you think Western media would have reacted if those images of the law enforcement in France beating up on people, if those were, let's say, in Beijing, let's say in Iran, let's say in Moscow, let's say in Johannesburg, let's say in Senegal, or whatever, in Egypt, whatever. You get the idea. How do you think Western media is going to cover the stories? So, and this is where I see the double standard, and you can't operate that way. And this is why I ask myself, what is the purpose of President Emmanuel Macron's trip to China for? China is smart enough to know, because China knew ahead of time that when they proposed the peace deal, and I read it, the 12 points peace plan, I read it. It's pragmatic, it's realistic, and it falls within the logic. The US came forward and said head on that we're not going to agree to any ceasefire in Ukraine. That falls back to the confirmation, what I shared with you earlier about François Hollande, the French president, that the former French president, rather, the one that confirmed that it was pre-planned since 2007, you know. So the US came forward, said, no, we're not going to support anything China did. And that put it in context within also why the CIA director had to go to China. To Saudi Arabia. Well, he had to go because Saudi Arabia and Iran got closer because China worked out a deal for them diplomatically. So if I am to argue, and I'll say, if French president is going to China to ask China for initiative for peace, to step into peace talks, to end the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, how come he didn't ensure that the U.S. will not sabotage that approach? No, that's one argument. Okay, we could look at it that way. Now, there is another argument you have to, not argument, consideration you have to think about. And that one has to do with how come French president went to China instead of the US? So, like I always say, guys, in international relations or in global affairs or geopolitics, context matters. Could this signify that France now is willing to break away with the US? I don't see that happening. Possibility is there. Because what will lead us to think in these terms? Because consider who went to change, who accompanied the French president. It was Ursula Vanderlyn, who's, by the way, she was ignored completely because you all saw the picture of Emmanuel Macron coming out of the plane on a red carpet. There were no images of Ursula Vanderlyn. She can be trusted. That's one. And second, she will undermine whatever effort China does. Well, her argument is, oh, I'm going to talk about where we stand as far as trade with China. No, that's nonsense. It is nonsense. She's trying to sort of appease and appear on the global stage as very active. And you all know why. It's because she's running for the position of NATO. She wants to become the next NATO Secretary General. That is why. Because to me, I look at it, she's useless. You know, the trip for her to go to China, what purpose does it serve if it doesn't serve hers? You know, how can you trust her anyway? After all the lies that saying that Russia committed crimes and this and that, when it was none of that. None of that. I'm going to be releasing a video for you guys soon. It has to do with what's going on in Ukraine. I decided to make a special video for you. So be on the lookout for that. So that's one of the arguments. The second or the third one that is, as I said, we have to look at it within the context of the geopolitical and economic landscape. What do I mean by this? Well, I'm referring to, first of all, the financial changes that's taking place on the global stage. You know, and I did mention this. I don't like to repeat myself too much, but just for those who might not be aware or have not heard of, or like the example of Brazil and China, you know, deciding to sidestep the dollar and trade bilaterally using the Chinese renminbi and the rias, the Brazil currency. India and Malaysia, also India and Bangladesh, India and Russia. You can just you get the idea. You get the idea. So could the Emmanuel Macron trip to China really has nothing to do with Ukraine, but rather on the economic welfare of France, for one specific reason. And again, I am putting my geopolitical analyst hat on and thinking outside the box. And my thinking is, if you think about Airbus, where is Airbus? In France mainly. And if you think what China just accomplished about a month and a half ago, building its own aircraft, you'll see what I'm getting at, right? It's because France will be worried after they've been stabbed in the back by the United States and the UK regarding Australia's submarines. That's the issue of the AUKUS. You're all aware of that. So that is where the idea of how France now is going to go under, get this, guys, under the umbrella of Ukraine conflict to justify the action. This is where I see the hypocrisy of the West. France, Emmanuel Macron, and Ursula Vanderlyn fully understand that they can move an inch without the approval of the United States. Even Polish president himself has to say, I have to have the green light to give the MiG-29 to Ukraine, which in the future, by the way, ain't going to happen anytime soon. So you got my point. They can't do squat without the approval of the United States. So what are you going to China for? What are you wasting people's time? Because time is very important. That is why I value your time. It means a lot to me when you are devoting this time to sit here and listen to what I have to share with you. And like I always say, I have no tolerance for nonsense because your time means a lot to me and I respect it. Because I don't want anybody to waste my time. So why should I do it to others? That's how I look at it when it comes down to Macron going to China. China has far bigger things to deal with and think about and work towards and so forth. Look just what they achieved regarding the Saudi-Iran deal, to the point that the CIA director had to go to Saudi Arabia. But again, not only about that, it's about the petrodollar. That is what's at the heart of it. Like I said, and I did say this way back, the moment, mark my word on it, the moment Saudi Arabia announced it's dropping the US dollar from all, that's the key word, all global oil transactions, it's over. I mean, yes, Saudi Arabia is doing it with Kenya. They are exchanging now, not exchanging, rather. Kenya can pay with shillings for oil from Saudi Arabia. And again, I am talking based on the trends that I've been watching. I'm thinking based on my academic background. I'm talking based on my over 15 years in Washington, D.C. I kind of learned over time, didn't acquire this knowledge overnight. It took me a few decades to acquire all this. So this is what I see. That's like exactly what just happened yesterday. Yesterday, I got a word that Russia is moving its nuclear missiles to the borders with Finland. I am not shocked. I am surprised. I talked about it and I disclosed it in my book back then, because that's the common sense approach. And this is why you guys put always, like, just think of the big picture. For a trip like for Macron to go to China, what for? When he was just there 3 months ago or 4 months ago, somewhere around that time frame. What are you going back for? Unless there is something in it for you. Not about Europe, not about the EU, not about Ukraine, not about the US. It's also because geopolitically he is seeing where the trends are headed and doesn't want to be left behind. Economically will be the most prevalent reason, because Airbus, France will lose big time. That is one of the reasons why, in my opinion, is going. What do you guys think? Yeah, just leave me some answers on the chat box here. So, what is the reason for why, he's going to China, or he went to China? Now, there is another thing you need to consider, and again, you can't look at just one aspect and say this is definitely why, or this is the conclusive conclusion, or whatever the conclusive outcome. No, you have to look at different parts, different pieces, Then you put them together. That is what the job of an analyst is. Takes few pieces from a different, something that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, only to find out the link to it. And what am I referring to here? I am referring to the payment that France just made to China in Chinese in yuan renminbi. For the purchase, France purchased 60,000 tons. Get this, guys, 60,000 tons of liquefied natural gas from China. And they paid for it. France paid for it in the Chinese renminbi. Yuan, that is. So, once again, could this an indication for where France is seeing the trends and they don't want to be left behind, especially when it comes down to economics? I can see the argument for that. It's no different than one you take, for example, BMW, that allocated its operations to China. No further than Saudi Arabia signed an agreement with China building a $12.2 billion oil refineries for petrochemicals. The trends. Those are realities on the ground. You can't just fabricate this stuff or make it up. That would be ridiculous and stupid to even consider something like that. And this is why I don't buy the arguments of what the Western media is saying, because it defies logic. Europe is seeing itself being joined to the hip against its will with the United States. Europe, some of them are realizing the decline of the United States. Sad to say, it's my country, but it's the reality, and we caused it. We shouldn't be pointing fingers at others. We point fingers at ourselves. That's like something going wrong in your family, whatever. What do? Do you go to your neighbor and start blaming your neighbor for whatever's going on inside your house? No. You look inward first and figure out what the issue is. This is how I see it. It's because, like I said last time, the West is having a hard time accepting a shift in this geopolitical order, by which the dominance of the US, or that strong grip, will loosen one way or another, whether we like it or not. Because, like I said earlier, today's China rather, is not China's of 50, 60 years ago. Back then, they were just farmers. There were a lot of farms and so forth. They worked their country. They raised people from poverty. You give credit. Their system works for them. Probably won't work for me, but it works for them. So you respect that. And second, you realize that the government is working for the people. So, is that what is going on in Europe? You look, just asking a European, I talk to my family sometimes, and it's kind of like, we don't get it. Why the leaders are so-called leaders? I won't even call them leaders. Because a leader will consider the welfare of his or her constituent first before his or hers. That is what a right and true leader does. It's not about just the good time. When things are good, are peaceful, it's in a hard time as well. It's when it matters. To me, that's what leadership is all about. It's making the right decisions when it matters. When the conflict was brewing in Ukraine, Europeans didn't have the gut to stand on their feet and said to the US, no, we don't agree to this. Or if you want to go along, we're not supporting you. They didn't have the gut to say it. And to me, this is why I look at the trip. It's like hypocrisy. What do you think? Chinese cannot see through or cannot understand? Or you are the smartest because you are a European? Given the history, what you have done in that part of the world, along with Africa, along with Latin America, Individuals or those countries not gonna forget. And now the Western world is seeing the grip is slipping away. You know, like which, by the way, I'm gonna be digging into it as far as the Asian monetary system stuff. How I can just see where this is going, because in the case of something like this, the West is gonna, especially when I say the West, I'm referring to the United States, is going to have to come up with some plans to undermine whatever. It is exactly what's going on right now as we speak in Ivory Coast. And I've been there when I was working in the government. You know, we are training forces in Ivory Coast. Makes you wonder what is brewing. Yeah, it's to me, it's you state the fact as they are, and you let people reach their own conclusion. This is why I enjoy this time with you guys, because I am not providing you the conclusions here. No, 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 no. Those are mine. They belong to me, because if I'm wrong, I bear the responsibility for it. And if I am wrong, I'll come forward and say, I made a mistake. I didn't assess this very well, and so forth. You all know how I operate. I don't shy away from saying I was wrong, because anybody who thinks always gets it right, there is something wrong with that picture. And that applies also to leadership, leaders, so called, head of states, prime ministers, whatever. No, no. For in the case of what's her name, Ursula Vanderlyn, to go with the French president, because they just want to give the impression this is on behalf of Europe, the EU, when in reality, most countries in the EU don't give a hoot about Ursula von der Leyen or Emmanuel Macron or what they are planning to begin with, because they are concerned about their economic conditions. Ask Hungarians, ask Romanians, ask Bulgarians, or even in Poland, which, by the way, Poland seems to be going some directions that is very concerning. I don't know what President Duda, president of Poland, is thinking. Or is he being pressured? No different than the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, or the Prime Minister, the clown Sunak. Or even, and I will challenge even, the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia. Oh, funny how she flipped. I had high hopes for her, that somebody now with the rationale and reason. She flipped. They flipped her. How? I don't know. I guess this is where I see that leadership and power, no, they're not qualified to lead. And again, when you couldn't take stand when it matters, then what's the point? What's the point? We all can be happy in a good time and all that. But when, without saying it here, hit the fan, you all know what I mean. It's no different than how those leaders are acting. And this is why I looked at it as, for Macron going to China, he's humiliating himself. I don't know if any of you guys saw the handshake, how President Xi really had no desire whatsoever, because he knew this is guy just slick Willie coming just whatever. This is no different than what President Xi did to the Prime Minister dictator Trudeau of Canada when he berated him because he shared something with him, and dictator Trudeau went ahead and disclosed that. That's like zero diplomacy and understanding that private conversation stays between the leaders of the country, whatever. But what do you expect from dictator Trudeau anyway? To me, it's not I have nothing against those individuals, but I'll call them out. When you see a failure in leadership, you're going to call them out on, let alone in the case of France, Emmanuel Macron. How the heck are you going to China where your country is burning? That's to me personally, and my personal opinion, running away from facing the truth. You face the challenges. You don't run away from the challenges. Challenges will teach you a lesson. That's how we acquire knowledge in life. When he says somebody had life experience, that's all he means. They've been challenged in a hard time and they stood their ground. That's what it means. And that will apply to the political realm, the diplomacy, whatever you call it. So the mistake that I believe Emmanuel Macron has in his mind, he's thinking, oh, I'm just going to go to China. It won't matter. No, it does matter. The optics of it. Chinese are smart enough to know. They've dealt with the West for so long. They understand they can't trust the West. And we don't understand how the culture is in that part of the world, in the whole Asia, not just China. The whole Asia, it's a different culture. And if we don't take the time and the effort to educate ourselves, we should keep our mouth shut instead of just spewing nonsense. That's how I see it. If I have nothing of substance to share with you, I'll keep my mouth shut. I won't be here. That's how I look at it. The same thing applies to diplomacy. If you truly stand on something or stand for something and you are willing to talk, let's do it. And again, I'll give you again the example. Saudi Arabia and Iran amending their tie, their relations is a case in point. So Europe is gone. And this is nothing new. I'm sure you guys, there are some of you from Europe. I remember Jack from London, and Jack, I always read his comments and so forth. I appreciate you for that, Jack, by the way. There are some majority of you from Europe. You all see, you're on the ground, you're watching with your own eyes. What you will expect from a government to to act on behalf of its citizens is doing the reverse. It's making conditions worse for the citizens. So why the heck we have a government to begin with? You might as well just let people manage their own affairs. Yes, you do have to have some structure of sort. This is why I argue against those who say, no. We need to have someone, meaning a country, who will manage the global order. Policeman of sort. No, we don't. That era is gone. The multipolar order can manage itself. Let people be. Let countries figure it out on their own, based on their resources, based on their culture, I always give the example in academia. And I used to share this with my students, even for the graduate level. And I remember I shared this one time. And just to put it in perspective for them. And I said, listen, I am the one spending more time with you in the classroom. Why will I wait on a vice president of education or teacher, whatever, to come over and assign a grade for you? That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm aware of your strength. I'm aware of your weaknesses. I'm aware of your abilities. I'm aware of your whatever you can achieve or not achieve, whatever, because we talk. And I deal with you on a regular basis. The vice president of academics, whatever, he doesn't know you, doesn't know your capabilities. It's no different than countries. Why are we the one dictating to them you need to embark on course A or course B, when in reality, they have different needs. And we have it right here at home. We don't need to go other countries, right here at home. Why the heck we will wait for Washington to dictate for us right here in the state of Texas or California, whatever state it is, to dictate to us how to behave or how to do whatever it is. I look at it in education. Why Washington has to decide on what we teach in the classrooms? Those are damn politicians. They don't understand education. They have no clue. And they're only thinking about the next term. Same thing with countries. You go to country A and tell country A to behave this way or that way. Why? We don't know the resources of that country. We don't know the strength. We don't know their needs. We don't know their plans, their strategic thinking, and so forth. let alone we are poor readers of history and geography, if I may add that. No offense to my fellow Americans, not all. That's why we don't teach anything in schools anymore. I'll say it. So, this is why I left with wonder, because I've been thinking, should I address this topic with you guys to put it in perspective for you, because you need to see the big picture of it. You know, yeah, the photo ops of Emmanuel Macron coming out of the plane and meeting with President Xi and all that. But in reality, what's really behind all that? You know? And again, why are you going all the way to China when you, Emmanuel Macron, you know and you knew that you won't be able to achieve anything because your master is going to tell you no? You know, how many times, I'm sure you've heard this, guys, how many times you heard France wanting to get out of NATO? Did they? No. It's all hypes. It's all bravado, no more, no less. Politicians sound with the ideas very great. You either do it or not. That's even in your life, your personal life. I'm sure you meet with people and deal with people, and you can differentiate between a doer and a talker. You know, cut the talker off, cut him off. Don't waste your time and energy. Like I always say, time is precious. If you waste time, you're not getting it back. Yeah, it's no different. But you don't have real politicians, you have amateurs. At least I speak for us here in the United States. I can't generalize, and I will not generalize. There are some good leaders out there. They are. They're doing their best. I speak on my country here, that all we have a bunch of amateurs in Washington, D.C. That's all we have. You know, and I'll be happy to confront them on it. Maybe some politicians is watching this video as we speak, and I hope he or she does. But it's not just the government. Like I always say, you don't just blame out, you blame in. You point the finger inward. Some of us bear the responsibility also for being ill-informed, have no clue what's going on, because we choose to be busy with, you know, football, basketball, baseball, the idiot box, the Kardashians, the this, the that. Government find it convenient if the government can distract you, so you won't be thinking. Because if you think, it's gonna concern me big time, because now you're gonna start seeing the big picture, and I don't want you to see that. You look at it for these changes on the global order that is taking place before our own eyes. You know, the governments right here, or the West for that matter, the collective West, they do not want their people to be aware of what's going on and what that change in the global order will entail. This is the example that I put one tweet one time. I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter or not. If you do, I'm at @dwalalu. I put one question one time. You know, it was some schmuck was talking about, you know, how we need to build the military things to confront China and Taiwan and all that stuff. And I just put one question. I said, do you understand, in your opinion, do American people have any idea what a war with China will entail? No answer. Zero. They don't know. They don't understand. So that's just one example. So some of us are to blame also, because we're not willing to educate ourselves. And this is why, again, I lash out at those who put some stupid comments and nonsense. I will not tolerate that, no matter what. And what makes it even more stupid on their part, saying, well, I'm going to unsubscribe. More power to you. Go the hell out. Go watch stupidity on YouTube, because you are a disgrace to our viewership here. And I won't allow that, because I appreciate and respect your time. It's the stupidity. And I won't tolerate it. I won't. Because the moment I decide to do this, and I know you're going to be there, is I need to give you something of value that coincide with the time you are allocating for this. That hour we spent on the air here, it's the time you could do something else, but you choose to be here because you wanted to learn something new. Same for me. It goes both ways. I am learning from you as well. I don't look at this just me sitting here and talking. No, I'm reading your stuff and learning from it because you have something to say. We all have something to say. But at the same time, when you start seeing nonsense, please do me a favor and do our viewers a favor by unsubscribing and go elsewhere. Watch kitty cats playing, because that's the level of your intellectual capabilities. And I don't hold back. You guys know me by now. There's a watch. I don't hold back. It's because I will be doing the guy a favor. He might need to take a step back and reconsider his existence in life. What are you here for? What is your purpose? Is it just to wake up, eat breakfast, and go do whatever, and that's it? You go to bed. What are you doing for humanity? You don't have to be a billionaire. You don't have all that status, and it's irrelevant. But at least if you can understand what's going on around you, then you will be in a position to educate your loved one, your friends, whatever, the close ones to you. And those will be able to share that with their friends and so forth. You get the idea. That is the purpose, at least for me. I get excited about this, and also have passion for it, because if you don't do things 110% effort, don't do it. Don't do it. Be true to yourself. Be real. That's how I look at it. So. All right, let me see. I'm done talking. Let me see where are you joining me from. If you will be kind and just type in what part. I'm going to scroll all the way up and see where are you joining me from. So I always like to know. All right, let's see here. Oh, Zavirza from Malaysia. Good to have you here. Jack Rabbit, good to have you as always. And hello to you. Jan Harcourt, good to have you. Okay. Yeah, Crypto got a Florida. So good to have you here. Oh, E.T. Bush, Holland. Oh, good to have you here. All right, let me see. Yeah, Jack Rabbit, London. Okay. Oh, I want to say thank you to Black Raven. Thank you so much for your super sticker. I truly appreciate it. Let me see. Yeah, I'm scrolling down, guys, just to see where are you joining me from. And I know this is kind of it takes a delay by the time you type it. I don't know why. It's just how the software, I guess, or YouTube for that matter. So okay, I'm still scrolling down here just to see. Yeah. The Choi Hokoi, hi to you as well. As a member of the channel. Good to have you here. Okay, let me see. Istiach, good to have you. Let me see. Yeah, really, I hope YouTube can work on expediting this, because it takes forever. By the way, sometimes, guys, after I log off and I'll see a super sticker from somebody, I don't mean not to say your name, I already logged off. So TNT. Oh, let me get to TNT here. TNT is a member, has been along with us for a while, so, and I appreciate you, TNT, and all of you for that matter. So. Okay. Oh, Osiris. It is Osiris. Good to have you, and thank you so much for your super sticker. So, Croatia. Oh, good to have you here. Croatia. That's a nice place, I heard. I've never been there. Epic Fox from Tennessee. Good to have you. Louise Aurore from France. La France. What part in France? No, I have family scattered all over. George from Vancouver, Canada. Oh, Marshall Topala from Poland. Lots. I'm very familiar with Zakopane. I used to spend time there. Amir Ryder from London. Good to have you. Shiva from California. Good to have you. Herman GPR from Indonesia. Mohammed Qadar from Denmark. The last time I was in Denmark, don't laugh at me. The last time I was in Denmark was 88. I went to Copenhagen. I did fly over, but that was the last time I was in Denmark. So I enjoyed it. That's nice. Orwellian Purple. Good to have you. Orwellian Purple Grapes. Good to have you from Netherlands. Supong from Thailand. I spent time in Thailand. I went over when I was still working in the government. That's what they say in Thailand. Kapunka. Thank you. So TNT, thank you so much for your super sticker. And you wrote, thanks for being real. Most people in the US are so numb to the real truth. I agree with you, TNT. They are. And for me personally, I'm doing my best. That's what I can do. Beside that, I used to go sometimes when I get invited to TV stations to do an interview or something, but it's not an open platform because you know how TV stations are. They're controlled. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And thank you for your support. Okay, let me see who else here before I'll open it for your Q&A, guys, for your questions. Manse from Mumbai, India. Good to have you here. Jen, Gensis Khan, you're right. You love your show and who you are as a human being. I am what you see. If I'm happy, you see me happy. If I am mad, you see me mad. If I am angry, you see me angry. I can't pretend. It's because you see so you know whom you're dealing with. And I'll say it straightforward. I don't sugarcoat things. I don't hold it back. Of course, there's protocol. If I am addressing a president, you have to address him or her in the proper manner. So, but the bottom line to me is I don't hold back. Lightning, North Carolina. Good to have you here. Oh, my fellow Texans, Ganis Khan, Texas. Good to have you here. Well, wait a minute. Yes, Texas Ganis. Okay. All right. Gary Gill from Indiana. Good to have you here. So let me open it up for your question. If you have a question here, and I will close it up after that, because like I said last weekend, I have to go look over the veggies that I planted, and I wish I would have taken a picture of that, but I forgot. So I'll do it next time. So, and by the way, guys, just before I forget, I have a surprise for you in about a few weeks. So now, of course, we call it surprise. You don't disclose that. So, well, let me see if there are any questions, and I'm gonna go with that one. So the ones that shows up quickly here. E.T. Bush question: what are the key points to take away from Macron's visit to China, as well as Van der Leyen visit to China? Well, the key question to that is that Emmanuel Macron is there for France. Economy is there for France. It's not for the EU, not for Ukraine, because it doesn't make any sense. Even though you and I know, I don't know whether you know or not, but Emmanuel Macron is not running for elections again. The constitution in France, you only run for 2 terms, 7-year term. And that's it. That's why he doesn't care, or he didn't care when his country is burning and he's flying to China. Usually a good leader will not leave a country like that and go somewhere. That's what I will do if I were a president. You can't do that. But what's in it? It's for what's in France. That's the bottom line to it. All right, I'll do one more time at the top, see if there are any questions, and that's it. All right. Well, guys, I wish you guys a good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you are in, and want you to know how much I truly appreciate it. And I am not saying it to be Mr. Nice. That is not me. I truly appreciate your time spending here with me, and I look forward to doing it again because it's you guys that keeps me going. That's why because there's you. That's why I do what I do. So, well, you guys have enjoyed the rest of your weekend. Be safe and look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember geopolitics impacts your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye bye.